Hi everyone, welcome to our second MadConvo. I'm Horacio Cortez and I'm here joined with my colleague.
Hi.
So today we are going to talk to you about coming back to Spain and the different options that are available to you. I wanted this MadConvo to be more of a conversation. And so that's why I asked Pilar to be here. We both have different trajectories, being students abroad and then coming back and living in Spain. So let's start with this picture that I found that I thought was a good representation of what could happen post-graduation. So this talk is mostly for those who are planning to graduate soon, whether you're in a junior year or you're going to graduate. But it's not a bad idea to start planning or to have an idea of what you want to do after. A lot of us have the perception that's going to be easy once you graduate, and once you have that diploma, you want to have, of course, your career and your job. However, the reality may be that life can take you in different directions, and different opportunities might come up. And in my experience, what I thought where I was going to be after graduation is not where I am now, right? And so some things that I wanted to point out and to talk about here before we start is life after college is very different from college. Wait, can you see that actually?
Yeah.
Sorry. So yeah, life after college is different than as a student. You're more independent. You're gonna have to find your own housing. It's not the same living on campus and off campus. You need to find a steady source of income. If you don't have those resources post-graduation, then you need to fend for yourself in a sense. And so it's very different. And the sooner you get that, you realize that, then the better you're able to start planning ahead. I would say focus on short-term goals, meaning if you don't have a clear idea of where you want to be productive in the sense that the graduating would be the first step, for example. Once you do that, if you want to find a local job, or you want to apply for post-grad, or you want to go abroad, then that would be like a short-term goal closer to what you can achieve. Be realistic, if that makes sense. The other thing would be patient. A lot of things won't happen the way you want them to. And so patience is a virtue in this sense. Contact and continue your networks. If you're part of a fraternity, sorority, you've been involved in different clubs or organizations, your contacts will be helpful in the future. I would say I met a lot of people through clubs or organizations, and I still keep in touch with them, and I found a lot of different resources, job opportunities, or volunteer opportunities through them. I don't know, Pilar, if you want to add something here or want to say?
I would say with contacts, make sure that you keep in touch, especially if you're a junior or you're going to be a senior coming up. Keep in contact with your professors, because that was something that was really helpful when I was applying to jobs coming here to Spain, and just in general, just having those contacts in order to have those recommendation letters. So make sure that you keep that network of professors, because you might want those recommendation letters even a year or 2 years out after you graduate. So keep in contact with them.
That's a really good point, actually. When I applied through one of the programs that we're going to present today, you need a letter of recommendation. And I used my professor, so I asked my professors for a letter of recommendation. And of course, you need to have good standing with them. You need to establish that relationship. even if it's not a close relationship, just so that they know who you are out of their many students is very, very important as well.
Yep.
I would say, sorry, research and fully prepare for job interviews. This is one of the things that I didn't take into or as important for me, just because I sent out, for example, 50 resumes and I only got one job interview. So I didn't have that much experience in job interviewing. But the more you're prepared to do so, the more you will be able to feel more comfortable, even if it's not a job interview that you want or a job that you want or that you think will be useful for you. It's going to be useful to practice in that sense. Does that make sense? Consider internships. If you're doing them right now, then great. I know a lot of you were already looking into it for summer internships, and of course, because of the current situation, that might have to develop differently. But internships are a great way to, one, meet people, get into the field that you're interested in, and just getting that practical experience for your resume later on. And then afterwards, keep learning, I would say. So let's talk about your experience abroad. This is something that I know was cut short. And if you haven't already done so, I would highly recommend to check out Pilar's MadConvo that talks about reframing your return home. But to consider living abroad in the future, you have the advantage of already have lived abroad, if that makes sense. So in that sense, evaluate how your experience abroad has changed your perception or has influenced your academic, professional, personal life. Did you like it? Did it make you change the classes that you took here? Did it make you change your career goals or your academic goals? What challenges did you face abroad and how did you cope with them? What were some difficult moments for you here in Madrid, or when you were traveling, or when you were meeting new people? How did you deal with those? Strategies that you found most useful when you missed home, for example, or you missed your friends. Those things are important things to consider when you are planning to come back, because one of the things that you'll notice is that it's for a longer term. It's very different, like we said, studying here and living here. And so those are things that will impact your experience and will impact your wellness as well. So in that sense, has your experience made you want to come back? Is this a viable option for you, a realistic option for you as well? Personally, I really enjoyed my time abroad. And when I went back, I didn't really feel like I wanted to live in California. So in general, I think it just depends on the person and it depends on your experience while you were here. Pilar, did you have an experience? Did you enjoy your abroad experience, and why did you want to come back?
Yeah, I loved my time abroad, and I studied abroad for a whole year in Spain. And so I think it was something that long-term study abroad really helped me know that I was going to be able to live here in that long-term sense as well.
Yeah.
But I think it's definitely important to realize how different it is studying abroad versus living abroad.
Yeah.
Your responsibilities are different, right? Your time schedule is different. The people that you meet have different goals in life and different expectations.
Exactly.
So
What
those
would
are
you
things
say
to
was
keep in
the
mind.
hardest or the biggest difference?
Oof, I don't know. I think just kind of that idea of what your goals are, right? When you're
Yeah.
here to study, you're kind of here to travel, and especially these short-term study abroad programs, you're like, I want to go to a country where I can travel easily, I can meet some people, I can have some fun. But when you make the decision to come and live abroad, I think it's really something where you have to be sure, like, I'm taking this step and I'm going to do this as a part of something that's going to project me forward.
Yes,
And
exactly.
those people that surround you are kind of hopefully having those same ideas too.
And at the same time, I think it's also okay for you to feel nothing, meaning you don't know where to go, you're going.
Yeah.
Because I first had the idea of I wanted to go to grad school and then get a PhD. But then when I came here, it completely changed my perspective and my goals. So that's fine as well. So another thing that I was going to mention, for me, the biggest difference was money. Because I was dependent on financial aid during my college years. And when you come abroad, or in general, when you graduate, you're gonna have to find your own way of making money. And so I would say 3 big things to consider or do research on. Budgeting. Budgeting in the sense that you need to find wherever you go abroad, the cost of living, how much rent will be, the airfare, how much food. The advantage that you already have is that you already know how much food costs here. How much does it cost to go out, to buy necessities, to fly around Europe. So in that sense, you have an idea of your budget. Yes. Another thing would be the passport and visa. And the difference would be that you don't have Rick to help you with this in a sense. So you're gonna have to find all the legal documents that are necessary to as well. But that would depend on also checking your local consulate. So I highly recommend checking any updates that they will have. And then lastly, I would say your emotional and mental health is very important, because you need to take into consideration that you're going to be far away from your family for a longer period of time. So that's something that you really need to look into and find your resources. And then, wait, sorry about that. Okay. So why come back? There's 3 things that I would say people come back to Spain for. One would be professional development, even though it's quite limited, and we'll get into that. The second would be to pursue further education. It is very, very different price-wise than in the States to get your master's here. Both Pilar and I have gotten masters here, and Pilar has also gotten a master's in the US, so she can tell you a little bit about the difference in that, because it's a big one. And the third one would be, and this was for me personally, you needed time to think, when you need time to think. And that's okay. It's fine to not have an idea of where you want to go, what kind of job you want, because it's a big deal. It's a big leap. And so it's fine to want time. And coming abroad is a great way to take your time in that. So let's get into professional development first in Spain. There's a couple programs that you can come through that are very, very well known. The first thing that you need to know is that I would say mostly the only thing that you can do in Spain would be teaching assistantship. And this is basically teaching conversational English to different levels of Spanish speakers. So you can be placed in a primary school, middle school, junior high, or what they consider high school as well, or very limited positions would be university level. But the cool thing about this is, one, the intercultural communication skills that you can develop, speaking or being around with different people from different backgrounds. Public speaking, that's a big thing that you'll be able to do in a classroom. Hands-on experience with school children and high schoolers, collaborative and cooperative learning skills, because sometimes you're able or you're tasked with creating a project for a school and you need the help with all the center. Learning beyond cultures and patience.
Lots of patience.
Lots and lots. And we'll talk about this, our own personal experience, because there's 3 big ones, and there's other programs, minor programs that have popped recently, but the biggest ones that we're going to talk about today are the ones that are sponsored by the ministry, which is the first one. There's another private one called Beta, and then lastly, there's a third one called CIEE, but there's different requirements and fees for some of them. Personally, I went through the ministry one and switched to a master's program, and we'll tell you about that next. So, Pilar, what program did you come through?
I actually came through CIEE, and then I switched to the de conversación through the ministry. And I did that mostly because I decided what I wanted to do pretty late. And this was, the Ministry of Education was already full. So I ended up applying through CIEE to do my first year through them.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. So you did so you did it that way. So you can tell us about the benefits about that. Because it's very competitive, the Auxiliares de Conversación through the Ministry of Education, because it's a first come, first serve basis. The application actually opens in January, and a lot of people, since it's become more and more popular, apply literally on the second that it opens. So when I applied, I was number 600, I think. And the thing is that, yeah, that's what I mean, because it opens and maybe like 8 hours into the application, I was number 600 and something. But that's the thing, because once it opens, the first come, first serve, the lower your number, the more likely you'll get your preference, right? So this is a program that's conversational English to elementary or high school students. You can also be placed in language schools, but I don't believe I've heard university level for this. It's a 9 to 10 month contract, depending on the region. So you have the option to choose different regions in Spain. One of the regions would be Madrid. And in Madrid, you would have a 10-month contract. So that would be from October all the way to the end of June. In other regions, though, it's from October to the end of May. So depending on the region, you might have a different time here in Spain. Like I said, applications open in January, first come, first serve. So it's very important to have all the requirements to apply beforehand, and like that letter of recommendation. But the cool thing about this program is that you are given 12 to 16 hours per week of class time. So even though it's not a full-time job, it's considered basically an internship, you work 12 hours or 16 hours a week, which isn't that bad. And the compensation is pretty great to live in Madrid. The few requirements are, you have to have a university degree. So once you graduate, it's a great idea. A letter of recommendation, US passport holder, but you do, basically it's, if you are from an English speaking country, they'll allow you to apply. So this is more oriented for US passport holders or from different countries that English is an official language. And the benefits are, you get compensated from between 700 to 1,000 a month. So, and again, it depends on the region. Pilar, did you want to add anything to this one?
Not really. I mean, that pretty much covers it. It's a fun experience, and I mean, in Madrid, it's 1,000 euros, and it's typically about 16 hours a week. You can be placed anywhere around Madrid, though, so that's something to keep in mind. You're not going to be like right in the city center by like Opera or Seoul. I was in a town about a 40-minute bus ride away or 30-minute bus ride away, and I had to take the metro. So, but that's pretty typical. I mean, I know people that work about an hour from their house and it's still in Madrid. So,
Yeah, exactly, because I lived in Malasaña, but I worked in Móstoles, which was 30 minutes, 40 minutes away by bus.
yeah, yeah.
So
You
you're
were a
still
town
able
before
to
me.
Yes. Oh, wait, which one were you in?
Navalcarnero.
Oh,
So I was past that, yeah. So I mean, people can work far distances, but also I had new friends that worked 10 minutes walking from their house. So,
I know. That's the other
but
thing.
it's I don't know. I loved it. I really did.
Another thing that I would say, even though you're placed in an elementary school, you can have all levels. In all of my experiences, I've had first grade all the way through sixth grade.
Yeah.
That's also something that you can, you have to consider.
Exactly. And where it says university degree, you at least have to be in the process, right, of
Yes.
getting it, right? Because you don't have to already have graduated to be able to apply. Like if you're graduating that year and you have proof of that, then that works, I think.
Yeah, so once the program starts, you have to have your university degree. So
Yes, at the start of the program, right?
yes. So during the process, thank you for that. During the process, you can show or you can upload your transcripts, for example. So, and I think as well, no, yeah, transcripts work. This is another program. Sorry. I don't know why it says 21. That's wrong.
That's okay.
This is another program that's quite popular and very, very competitive. And you might know someone that has done it, like our very own Rick. So this is called the Fulbright. And it's competitive because, let me get you the number. For example, last academic year, out of the 24 applicants from Syracuse University, 9 students were awarded. And then from that, in total, it's 165 English teaching assistantships that they offer in Spain. But the cool thing about this program is that it's very renowned, academically renowned as well. And it gives you the opportunity to come to Spain, teach English, be involved in a project with your school and with the program as a whole, and you get compensated. So it's the same description basically of English teaching. It's a 9-month grant from September to June, and the applications are actually open right now. It's from anywhere between 12 to 16 class hours per week. Again, you will have to be in the process of getting your bachelor's degree, but you cannot be a US or Spanish citizen, dual citizen. They don't allow that. And you'll be required to be part of the Model United Nations. I don't know if you were part of that or you ever did that in high school. I wish I did actually, but it was really cool. You're part of that. You help your students prepare for a big competition, regional competition. The benefits for that is travel allowance. You get a monthly stipend. It's a little bit over the 1,000. I'm not sure really, but it's a little bit over. And you get travel and health coverage. So it's a really good program if you're looking into having an academic aspect on your resume for it. And if you have any questions, I highly recommend you reaching out to Rick, and then he can tell you about it as well. And then Pilar, I don't know, I didn't know that you came through CIEE.
Yes. Oh, exactly. Missed the deadlines. That I did.
So what was your experience? Why did you go through CIEE?
So I really, when I decided to come back to Spain, it was pretty late. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do after college, and I kept kind of saying, I know I want to go back, but I don't know how. And so I kind of started to like Google programs. I didn't really have very much help doing it, and I found CIEEs. I don't even think I knew about the ministry at the time, and I just saw that there was applications that were open. And so I just applied immediately. I did have to have that letter of recommendation, and there were some fees with this one where there aren't with the
Yeah.
ministry, which is why most people go through the ministry, because CIE does have fees. But it's the same idea where, right, you're just teaching. I taught at the same school I taught at the first year through CIE as I did the second year through the ministry. I just continued with a different contract.
Yeah.
But it's the same idea, working, 12 to 16 hours a week at a school, teaching English at different levels, depends on where you're placed. And it's the same price. I got $1,000 a month, and you also get the health insurance. The thing with CIEE, I don't think I did the TEFL certificate for the 1,000, but it does have kind of these orientation weeks, so you can kind of pick your level of immersion that you're interested in. So there were different options, like a 4-week program. I mean, obviously, the longer the option of orientation, the higher the cost.
Yeah.
But there was like a 4-week option of immersion in Spain. There was a 2-week option. I did the lowest option since I'd already lived there and have, Spanish culture as my background. So
yeah.
That was kind of a big,
useful?
Yeah, I mean, it was a big sell for a lot of people, I think. And I think they really helped. They kind of go over kind of things like getting a phone and all of the basics in healthcare and finding a doctor and, a lot of things that maybe you learned about through our orientations and studying abroad here. But then when you actually live, it's a little bit different. So the orientations were definitely helpful, and you got to meet a lot of people in their program. So that was awesome, because it was a great way to kind of make some friends, and I still have friends that I met in those orientations to this day. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's a different way to start. I mean, it does have more of a cost, but it definitely has those benefits of, if you're not quite sure that you're ready to just come to Spain and jump in with no kind of support system there, they do offer a lot of support.
Yeah, and I think that's very true for the other programs where you're gonna have to do all of the legal paperwork on your own. And you're gonna have to do a lot of research, because once your visa time expires, you have to change your visa into a residency card. And that means going through immigration and going through the office, signing, doing these different applications. And so one of the things that CIE it does is help you through that process, I believe. Something that doesn't, you're gonna have to do on your own with the ministry program, for example.
Yeah.
So that's a good option. So now let's go into the educational opportunities that there are available to you. And this is where we have more knowledge in the first program, because we both did it. So I'll just say my experience first and then let Pilar tell you about hers. Basically, this program is a combination of working as an English teaching assistant and earning a master's at the same time. That's the basic. So there's different programs that they offer. When I was there, this was in 2016, 17, I earned learning and teaching Spanish as a second language master's degree. And I would work in a school about an hour away for 25 hours. And then on Fridays, I would go to the Universidad de Alcalá, which is 35 minutes away, and go to school there. And so I would work from Monday through Thursday, have school. It depends if you want to work 16 to 25 hours, but it does fluctuate your pay. So for example, I worked 25 hours, then I got the higher pay, which was about 800 euros. So it is a little bit different than the other programs, but the thing is, though that pay difference is that for your master's degree, the pay for your master's degree. So instead of paying monthly or paying for a full master's, you work and then you earn the master's at the same time. They also have different options that you can choose from, but this is the most popular one that I went through and that people choose just because you might not have the money to pay up front. I certainly didn't have money to pay the whole master's out of pocket. So this was a good way to earn an income and still continue my education in that way. Pilar, which one did you?
Yeah, I did the bilingual and multicultural education one, and I really enjoyed it. I think it's important to point out that, right, I also did the 25 hours a week, and I was through a school system called USITAM, which is another system that you can, another teaching English program that people can go through, but this specific Instituto Franklin is kind of, they have a lot of partnerships with schools through USITAM, and so that's why you have more hours, and you also have a little bit, well, actually a lot more responsibility in the classroom in my case than I did when I was teaching through the ministry. I was planning a lot more classes. I wasn't fully in charge of, you know, every class. That's something I guess to keep in mind that we didn't mention before. Through all of these programs, you're never alone in a classroom.
Oh yeah.
You're always accompanied by another teacher, but and the things that you'll do in the classroom vary so drastically between one teacher and another, and between one school and another. But with this program and through the school that I was working at, I was definitely planning and working and teaching a lot more than I was through the ministry. And then your class hours on Fridays. So you only have class on Fridays through this program, and it's about 5 hours long in the afternoon. And it depends. They might have changed it by now. I did it in 2015 to 2016, but the way that we did it then was like one class for about a month or 4 weeks, and then one class and then one class. So you're doing that class 5 hours on Fridays. And honestly, it was fine. It was kind of nice to kind of have this big chunk, and you have a break, of course. And another great way to also meet people while getting a master's in Spain that are kind of focused on the same things that you are. And like Horacio said, I mean, I also didn't have the money to pay for a master's up front. So this was a great way to keep teaching, earn some money, and get a master's degree at the same time. Yeah.
Exactly. No, it's a good way to come back, and if you still want to be academically oriented, then it's a good way to boost your CV or your resume, right?
Oh yeah.
And since we've done it, they've added, I think, 2 more masters. So now they have not only teaching and bilingual, but they have higher global education.
Yeah, that's new.
Yeah, and school management. So they've expanded it a little bit more. It's still under the education realm, but a little bit more, so you can do, so you can take it back to the US. And that's another thing to mention, that even though they're foreign degrees, you have to, there's no real association in the United States that validates a foreign degree. However, there is a certain way to make it, to process it and to have it say, hey, this is a real degree that I've earned the credits, and this is what I've done. So that's another option that you can have. And then Fulbright has another option where you can earn a master's degree. And again, this is a competitive program where you could be placed in 3 different universities. One would be the Universidad de Salamanca, more oriented to Spanish majors. Universidad de Navarra as well to earn, I believe it's a master's in teaching Spanish. And then the IE Business School for social sciences, political sciences, business school, MBA people. And so it basically is a master's degree program in a Spanish university, directly or enrolled. It's a grant as well. The application period is now from April to October. And like I said, you were placed in 3 different, one of the 3 different universities. It's a 9 through 11 month program, depending on where you're placed. And the cool thing about this, it's a full grant. I haven't personally met anybody that's done this, but same as the English teaching assistantship is through a Fulbright, and it does require the bachelor's degree or in the process of getting a bachelor's degree, and as well as the recommendation letter, and more oriented into academic fields. Okay, but again, it's a cheap way to get a master's degree that you can earn and use in the States. And then lastly, before we finish, so wherever you go, you always have to keep in mind, as independent as it is, then you're gonna have to do all your research. You have to check the consulate office requirements, what legal documents that you will need to process your visa and your residency here. The other thing would be, how much do you know about the host culture? Like we've said before, your advantage here is that you've already lived in Spain. You already know how to communicate or what's the daily life, but keep in mind that you're going to be here in a longer period of time. So that requires a support system. If you do well independently, then great. Or if you you know that you're gonna miss home, then what steps will you be taking to know that you are gonna be supported abroad and that your family is gonna be okay and you're gonna be okay here, right? In my experience, I'm quite close with my mom, so it was really hard for her to get the idea that I was gonna live here for a year. And so I established a relationship where I used WhatsApp and called her every single day. And so in that way, I was able to stay connected. But at the same time, for me here, it was kind of hard because I would see her miss me, but then I'm here. And so it's not as easy to go back to the States than if you were near your house, right? Pilar, how did you want to add anything?
I miss my mom too. It's hard. It's not easy. I mean, we came back, and it depends on your plans are going to change, right? I came back and I said, I'm going to stay here for a year or 2. It turned into 3. I went back to the US, and then I came back, and now it's been almost, 5, 6, and it'll probably continue. I don't have any plans on going back home. So
Yeah.
and it's not easy to be away from home, but when you find something that you're passionate about, then it makes it worth it.
Very true. No, and it's, can I ask you, what did you find yourself doing to stay busy? Because, for example, the programs they require you to work 16 hours. So a lot of the times you have all the afternoon off, right?
Right. Yes. So you can teach private classes. Is that where you're going with this?
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not sure. I went on walks. I went to the park. No, but you can teach private classes, and that's what pretty much everyone does. And so that's another way, if you're concerned about income. to be able to help you. You know, parents are always looking for help with their kids and tutoring. There's always academies that you can work at. I have friends that work both at English academies with either younger or older kids or even adults, as well as working at schools through these different programs, like through the ministry. So you can always kind of find other ways that your English language can help you kind of have that leg up with your income. So that's always helpful.
And there's always something to do, as you know, in Madrid. So
as you know, in Madrid.
you'll never get bored. Whether that be you go to Retiro or just walk around, go to a cafe and read a book, but there's always something. So with that being said, thank you for joining us. I hope this was helpful, or at least gave you an idea of what to Google afterwards. But thank you so much for joining us.
Bye.
Hasta luego.